Shabbat Shalom. I just want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath Day conference call, and this is Barbara serving as your host today, and Brother P is here as your co-host.
Yes, and I'm so glad to have you all along with us.
Well, this is current news. We are in January 2025. New Year's flight departs from Hong Kong in 2025 and lands in Los Angeles in 2024. And this is ABC News. So this was world news stating that a flight took off in 1 year and landed in a year date behind.
Los Angeles. A passenger plane took off from Hong Kong on the first day of 2025 and landed in Los Angeles International Airport New Year's Eve 2024. Cathay Pacific Flight 880 departed from Hong Kong International Airport just after midnight local time. The jetliner made its way over the Pacific Ocean, crossing the international date line about halfway through the 12-hour trip. The link is given below for y'all to look at and check out.
Yeah, so this was out on the internet for everybody to read, and it was on television and on the news. So how could that be? One flight taking off and it arrives a year later on a date? Well, this is only possible with a man-made dividing line called the International Date Line.
Can man determine when a day begins and ends? Any map or globe that has the international date line on it shows us the shortcomings of our modern way of calculating days on a Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar's starting point does not begin in the heavens, but begins with a man-made imaginary line existing partly between Russia and Alaska, known as the International Dateline, or IDL. In essence, it tells us that man can determine when a day begins and ends.
Well, a close examination of the International Dateline irrefutably proves that the modern weekly cycle has not cycled continuously without interruption since creation. And that's what we were taught. So here we have a division between Saturday and Sunday with the International Dateline. A fixed weekly Sabbath and the International Dateline. This is our topic today.
In Tong, the Seventh-day Adventist Church worships on Sunday because when a change was made to the line, evidently by the king of Tong, this makes plain the ridiculousness of drawing an arbitrary line of division between our days. And here we can see a map showing that real excursion of the date line that wraps around different islands.
Yeah, it's pretty zigzag there, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, the most recent major adjustment of the International Dateline was announced in 2011 on midnight, 10 o'clock GMT, as December 29, 2011 ended. Samoa and Tukla fast-forwarded to December 31. These countries chose to move from the United States side of the International Dateline to the New Zealand and Australia side to benefit trade and tourism. That meant that the seventh day of the week was now Sunday. So what were the Adventists on Samoa and Tikla to do? And not just Adventists, but any Sabbatarians. Well, what every Seventh-day Adventist must know, here are some of the points. International Dateline shift creates two worship days for SDA churches in Samoa. The church rift. Saturday worship and Sunday worship for SDA churches in Samoa. The argument is on Sabbath day was based upon unscriptural, continuous, weekly cycles. That is not in the Bible. Now, here is a challenge for you. Ask your own questions.
If you are a Saturday Sabbatarian, ask your pastor, how can we continuously observe Saturday Sabbath without using the 130-year-old man-made international dateline. If he's honest, he will have to concede that it's impossible. The world simply cannot be united in observing a Gregorian day or date without using the international dateline. The question that logically follows then is, how can Saturday be heaven's ordained seventh-day Sabbath? There is simply no way around it. If the day matters, then the method used to calculate the day matters also. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say that the seventh-day Sabbath is of the utmost importance to our Father in heaven, while also saying that it is acceptable to let worldly men determine when the seventh-day Sabbath begins and ends, that is, through the international dateline.
And we did a video on this same topic a few years ago, and we gave a whole lot of examples over the 130 years of dates and calendars being changed and skipping the days of the week or changing the times of the week so that it's not a continuous 7-day cycle. So I hope you'll go back and watch that one that has a lot more evidence in it. So can man sanctify a Sabbath day? In essence, man places himself in the place of Yah as the one who sets apart or sanctifies a day.
With the international dateline, it's possible that people have Friday on one side of this line and Saturday on the other side of the line, while both sides of the line are under the exact same evening and morning. This is the kind of confusion that takes place when man tries to take the place of Elohim.
So ask yourself, can the day be holy on one side of the street and not holy on the other side? Only with man's calendar does this happen. You do not have this problem with Yah's calendar because its starting point exists in heaven. So just imagine the international dateline running through the Israelite camp in the wilderness. You would have Israelites camping on either side of the line. On one side, it's the Sabbath, and on the other side, it's preparation day. And Yah does not work like that because he is not the author of confusion. The Sabbath is a Sabbath for all his people. For example, if both sides of the international dateline are looking at the moon and count 6 work days and rest on the 7th, then as it gets dark, both sides will be keeping the same day, and both sides will be holy unto Yah.
On the currently accepted continuous weekly cycle on a Gregorian calendar, the weeks are strictly solar. The Scripture never mentions a 7-day continuous cycle. Scripture gives us a pattern of rest after 6 days of work. The 7th is the Sabbath day and a day of rest. The new moon is not one of the work days, and it begins each month. See Ezekiel 46, verses 1 through 3.
And this calendar over here will show you in the green, and it goes this way through the month, that there are 6 working days and a Sabbath. And new moon begins the month. You have 6 working days, a Sabbath, 6 working days, and a Sabbath, the day of rest. So according to the Romans calendar cycle, it is possible for 3 people to keep 3 different days as the Sabbath and all be right according to the Roman Gregorian calendar, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And this is not so with the moon and the true natural patterns of Yah. So which day is the true 7th-day Sabbath? The whole problem is solved with a lunar solar calendar. The international dateline is absolute proof against the continuous weekly cycle and the Saturday Sabbath. It is absolute evidence for the lunar Sabbath and the calendar in the heavens. This is just good old-fashioned common sense, and this is just using the mind that Yah gave you to deduce the truth. The international dateline proves the lunar Sabbath is true. So which way will you choose? And Genesis 1:14 says,
And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, or worship times, and for days and years. That's Genesis 1, verse 14.
So the signs in the heavens of the moon phases show the week cycle, and the beginning of the month is the new moon day. So that whole calendar is there for days and years, signs and seasons. It's all there in the heaven for us, and man can't draw lines through this calendar and change days and times. And the Sabbath is a sign between Yah and his people, Ezekiel 20. And also, he says in Malachi 3:6, he says, I am Yah, I change not.
Numbers 23:19. God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill?
So I just want to invite you to go and study out the calendar that is in the heavens and to access more information about the calendar, the days, the years, the months, the weeks. It's such a beautiful calendar that the Father put there for us. And no man can tamper with his calendar. So please go to our website, LunarSabbathDay.com. And thank you so much for being here with us today.